Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and residents of District 5. I'm City Councilor Cynthia Borrego. I'm also your City Council President. And tonight we are hosting our District 5 open house via Zoom, and this is live stream. So if you'd like to, you can also view this later on YouTube. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all to our meeting this evening. You can see the agenda shown on your screen. And I would like to just begin by thanking my staff, Susan B. Hill, who makes all of this possible for me. She is my assistant. And also Julian Moya, who does the council media. He's our media director. And I just want to thank them because without them, none of this is possible. And also our folks at IT who are helping us live streaming this evening. On the agenda, you'll see that we have some briefings this evening for you from our Northwest Area Command, from our crime prevention specialist, from our Albuquerque Fire and Rescue, from our CIBQ Emergency Management, also from Environmental Health and Safety. And I'll just want to start by saying I hope people are staying safe. And we are getting through this COVID. We're starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel. And we're excited about that because we're hoping that we're all going to be going back into what we are not even really sure of what our new normal will be, but it's going to be a new normal. At the end of this meeting, I will be talking about our New Mexico state legislative session and just a brief update on some of the legislation that came out of that session and some of the things that were defeated. We still have time for the governor to sign some of the bills that were sent forward to her desk, to Governor Lujan Grisham. So with that, because we started just a few minutes late because I think Gov TV had another program on, we're going to go ahead and just dive right into our session. At the very end of the agenda, we did receive about 6 comments from some of District 5 residents asking some questions, and I will address those questions before we adjourn our meeting this evening. So bear with us because this is live streaming and there's always technical difficulties, but we're getting better at learning how to do these Zoom meetings. And I think it's a good thing because we're also, hoping to get as much information and transparency out to the public as possible. But we're hoping that in the fall, hopefully in the fall, we will be able to start hosting some of our meetings in person again, and make sure that, we follow all of the etiquette rules of social distancing, et cetera, to ensure the public safety. And with that, I'm going to turn it right over to our Northwest Area Commander, Arturo Sanchez, and who was new around Christmas, and now he's our new old commander, and he's been with us for a few months now. So he's going to offer some insight to you about what is happening in District 5 with our Northwest Command. Commander Sanchez.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate that. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here and giving us this opportunity to talk to you and let you know where we are with the Northwest Area Command. I'll just give you a little bit of a brief on me and my background. Like the counselor said, I got here about mid-December. I came from Special Operations Division, where I was a commander for about 3 years. I've been with the department just a little over 20 years. I do have background in different areas, whether it's patrol, some investigative experience. I've been an FTO. I've been very fortunate to have worked through a lot of areas in the department. One of the things that I did the last 3 years, which gave me experience that I'm bringing down and back to the field and the area commands, especially with community engagement, has been working with paragraphs of the CASA. Currently oversee several of the community engagement paragraphs. And you know, community engagement and creating partnerships is something that really excites me. I did it as a new officer when I first started in the police department in Virginia. I was part of a community engagement unit, and so it really does excite me to work in those areas. Uh, just a few of my goals as a commander. I know that one of the biggest things right now within the department is the crime reduction. Um, that is very, very important to me because we want to make sure, and especially me and my area command, I live in this area command, so I have a stake in it, and trying to work on reducing crime is very, very important. But at the same time, just as important is accomplishing that goal by creating partnerships with the community, partnerships with our neighborhood associations, our businesses, our residents, and really other organizations within the department. So I'm hoping to accomplish that right now. I know Pete's going to go into some of the numbers, and obviously I can answer some of those questions. But I track the numbers on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis. We have some technology that allows us to do that. And so it does help us. And I do, I know overall we are reducing some of the crimes within the area command. I know at times it doesn't seem like it, especially when you're a victim. And it does it makes it seem like it's really, really bad once you become a victim, and it is. Even one crime it's unacceptable. So that's one of my goals. The other is I really want to work on some, especially once COVID in our, once we get through this pandemic and we're able to open up a little bit more with social distancing, and going back to some of that personal communication with our stakeholders. And that's increasing those partnerships and going back to those partnerships that we had created in the past. One thing and positive thing that I take of this terrible pandemic is that we were forced to do certain things that we hadn't been doing in the past, in reaching out to more people because we've been forced to use technology. And that's something that when I look at now, I'm like, this is something that we can continue to use, and we're going to continue to use. Although we may go back to in-person community engagement, community meetings, I think now we're going to incorporate these Zoom meetings because it's going to allow us to reach even more partners and more of the community. So I take that as something that we can use as a positive thing. Again, thank you. I'm really excited. And I know there is one question out there about, and I get asked this about, how long am I going to be here? I can tell you that my goal is to be here for years. That's my goal. I know there's been concerns about the turnover with commanders in a department. Unfortunately, that does happen in organizations like this. But I can tell you my goal is to be in this area command, to serve the Northwest Area Command and the whole city for a long period of time. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commander. And you were going to share some numbers with us regarding crime statistics for District 5?
Yes. So I do have some of the specific numbers. I'm going to have Pete kind of go into those, but I will tell you that I know there was a concern with robberies. We did see a little bit of an increase with robberies in the month of January. However, when we when we compare the number of robberies up year to date from last year, we are down, and we are down by probably, I would say, again, these are preliminary numbers because we use CAD to do these numbers. But we're probably have about 5 less than we did compared to year to date last year. Again, the first 2 months were, and I'm talking about commercial robberies. But I will give you, I'll give you an example, like for this month. So far we have 2, I was just looking at the numbers and we showed that we had 2 commercial robberies for this month, which is, it's really good. I mean, 2 is bad in the sense that we're having them, but compared to where we were last week, you know, we're doing pretty good. We have done several TAC plans, not only with robberies, but we did an issue in January, had some issues with burglaries, with auto burglaries. And I know that there was concerns about those. We did get quite a bit of an increase, especially in the first 2 weeks of January. We put operations together and we were able to reduce those numbers by quite a bit, almost half by February. Again, it's one of those crimes that we have to make sure we stay on top of it, and that we continue to encourage our neighbors and everybody to not leave doors unlocked. We are seeing a higher number of auto thefts. We've seen that increase in the last several weeks. And again, it's we see a lot of where individuals are walking through the neighborhoods looking at those doors. If that door is open, they're going to take them. So we need to take those kind of opportunities away.
Thank you, Commander. And I know that you've been doing some tactical plans regarding speeding, because that's been one of the big issues that's come up in the district. And you don't need to go into the tactical part of it, but I know that you've been very responsive, and we definitely appreciate that. And we are looking at some more of those speed trailers, I think, to help you out a little bit more.
Yes, and thank you for that. And again, a lot of it has to do with your support, ma'am, and the support of the community and getting those complaints in. You know, it does help us because we're able to look at those areas and really do a little bit of research and use some of those trailers with the data to see if it is an issue and where we can address it. But yes, you know, we have been working a lot of TAC plans. The traffic unit, I will say that the traffic unit has been instrumental in helping us. They conduct operations basically, you know, I believe 1 or 2 times a week. So we've been very fortunate to have them helping us out.
Thank you, Commander. Just one last question. If people want to report a crime, what are the numbers for them to report those crimes to? So
there's a couple of different ways to do it. Obviously by calling our substation, and I'll put it in the chat. I'll put the numbers on there. They can call 311 and put it on there. And I know within the area command, a lot of, and I'll have Pete put his information on there. A lot of times we get a lot of that information with more detail when it comes directly through our email. So, but I will put all that information out on chat. That way everybody have an opportunity to.
Thank you, Commander. That's very helpful. And if you're for some reason hesitant to report a crime to APD, you can always call myself or my assistant, and we're in touch with the commander pretty regularly. So you can also email us directly. And we can also, Susan, if you could put our emails in the chat as well, just for informational purpose. But mine is cynthiaborrego@cabq.gov. So with that, thank you, Commander. It's always great to see you. Thank you for everything that you do for our citizens. I know that I'm always talking about and bragging a little bit, and I need to be careful of that. But District 5 has so far been one of the lower areas of crime, and I'm proud of that. And I commend you and some of the commanders before you for keeping us in that place. So appreciate you being with us this evening. I'm going to turn it over now to Pete Gelbert. And Pete is our City of Albuquerque crime prevention specialist. Pete, I don't see you right on the screen, but I know that you were just there. Did he lose his connection, Susan? Maybe.
So Julian lost his connection. I don't
Okay,
see
well, we'll
Mr.
wait for him to reconnect. And with that, I'm going to move on then, and we'll come back to Pete once he reconnects. So bear with us. I'm just asking the general public because we always have these sort of issues with technology as we're learning this new way of communicating. So I'm going to move on to Chad Kim, who is with the Albuquerque Fire and Rescue Department. And Chad, would you go ahead and introduce yourself and just take about 10 minutes and give us an update on Albuquerque Fire and Rescue? And I'm sorry, I called you by your first name. I should have called you by your by your designation. If you'll introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Chad Kim. I'm a battalion chief with Albuquerque Fire and Rescue. Am I able to be heard okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Counselor, for giving me the opportunity to speak to your constituents. A couple of things that I wanted to just quickly target on, since we have a little bit of limited time, are some of the things that are happening in your district, obviously. And probably the biggest one that's going to take effect this Saturday is what we call redistricting, which it's a little bit out of the box to move personnel, apparatus, et cetera, around the city. But our current administration kind of found some gaps in coverage. And so we're going to correct those gaps this Saturday. Where it would affect your constituents, ma'am, is me, myself, the chief of the west side. So everything west of the river is mine for the 48 hours. I'm being physically moved to Coors and Montano. And what that means is that I can go anywhere pretty much on the west side pretty quickly. So it's more of a centralized location. And that, of course, is your state, one of your stations, Councilor Borrego. For those of you that don't know, that station looks a lot nicer now that our counselor got involved and helped with the landscaping there. It's called station number 18. In addition to me being physically moved, we're bringing hazardous materials responses to the west side of Albuquerque. So we're moving a whole entire hazmat group to station 17, which is roughly Coors and Sequoia. So that means that the citizens of Albuquerque, specifically on the west side, will have a quicker response specifically to hazmat. And that's a very big change for folks on the west side of Albuquerque. In addition to that, the wildland group that is currently at station 17 is moving closer towards the Rio Grande River. So they're moving down towards kind of 47th and Central area. So these are areas where we've identified that we had gaps in coverage for specific types of calls, and they're going to be corrected come Saturday morning. So Saturday morning is going to be a little bit, it's going to be different because we're going to be moving trucks and personnel around, but we look forward to all the changes because we think deep down it's going to better serve the citizens. I'd like to take a moment and see if there are any questions.
So just so I understand what you're saying is that the Albuquerque Fire and Rescue is moving some personnel. They're making some personnel changes, correct,
Yes,
to the
ma'am.
fire stations to become a little more effective and prepare for fire season and so on. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, ma'am. Shore up, specifically shortfalls. So we added actually personnel to the west side of Albuquerque as well. So the responses are not only different types of apparatus, but different qualifications of training levels that are going to be coming to those calls specifically. Did I answer your question, Counselor?
Yes, thank you so much. And can you give a contact number and your email in case people want to contact you directly if they have questions or issues regarding service or questions about Albuquerque Fire and Rescue and some of the things that might be coming up? Yes,
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. It's, many of you may be able to see it's Chad Kim on the screen there, but it's, my email address is ckim@cabq.gov. And the department phone number when I'm on duty is 505-934-8709. That phone number is shared between a total of 3 of us. So that I'm on for 2 days, then the next chief's on for 2 days, and then the next chief's on for 2 days. That's a 24-hour line though. If you need one of us, somebody's gonna answer that phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the Fire and Rescue Department is always available at any of the stations if people Absolutely.
need help,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
Yes,
Our
and you
doors
guys
get
do an
banged on.
amazing job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that I just contributed about $30,000 to help you guys buy some ladders citywide from my set aside. So I'm happy to do that and support you all in your efforts.
May I expand on that, please, Counselor?
Go ahead.
Thank you. She was being a little humble there, everybody. In my department, we were suffering from that. We don't like to expose ourselves, but we had some fans and some saws that are needed for specifically structure fire work that were pretty outdated and pretty tired. And our failure rates were going higher and higher and higher. We all saw it, but we didn't really know what we could do with it. You know, as we all know, money doesn't just fall out of the sky. And so our counselor contributed, I believe it was 30,000 on the mark to help us with that initiative. So we owe her a lot. That's just one of the many things that the counselor's done. And I can
Happy
keep
to
on
support
going.
you all.
Yeah, I
And
can keep going.
actually, I'm working with the chief, and I'm going to discuss this a little bit later. We're looking at a new fire station, possibly to be built in the area of Volcano Vista High School, which we'll be waiting to see if the governor signs that bill.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'm going to talk about that a little bit.
Excellent. I did
further.
not want to steal your thunder on that. I thought you were going to allude to that. Yes, ma'am.
Well, no, I'm happy to share. I'm happy to share the thunder with you. So it's exciting, and I think it's going to be great for the residents that live up in that
Absolutely.
area.
Yes.
And if you haven't already contacted the governor, because these bills are on the governor's desk right now, waiting to be signed. So that funding would contribute to design and construction for that new fire station in that area.
Yes, ma'am. That would be station 23. Oh,
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. And if people have questions, you've given them your contact information, and please do contact them if you have any questions or concerns regarding that. And on the screen, you can see the email contact for that as well. So with that, I'm going to go back to Commander Sanchez. And Commander Sanchez, do you want to introduce Pete Galibert?
Yes. So Pete is actually my right-hand man. He's the one that really keeps me on track with a lot of the crime and the stats that are coming in, and more importantly, he does a very, very good job in keeping me informed on those concerns that are brought in, not only brought in through email to him, but he looks at some of the things that are being put out, like the trends, whether it's on Nextdoor. Again, Nextdoor is not a reporting system for the department necessarily, and we don't encourage people to use that as their first reporting area, but he does a great job at looking at things and saying, hey, Commander, we've seen a couple of individuals that keep coming up with regards to trying to get into vehicles. So here's Pete with all the numbers and the information. So I'll let him.
Thank you, Commander.
We're glad to have you back on.
Thank you, Commander. Thank you, Councilor Borrego. My Wi-Fi actually went out completely, and I don't know why, but thank God it came back on. For those of you that don't know me, Again, my name is Pete Gelbert. I've been the crime prevention specialist in the Northwest Area Command since the Northwest Area Command opened back in around 2012. This year will be 21 years that I've been back with the police department, my second term. So I've been with the Albuquerque Police Department for 41 years. But I enjoy working crime prevention. I enjoy working the community. Like Commander Sanchez had mentioned, a lot of the incentives we have when it comes to partnerships is social media. And one of the things I'd like to mention to everyone, a lot of the neighbors have cameras. And we have a link called the Neighborhood Public Safety Ring.com. And if a lot of neighbors have, it's like next door, they sign up, it's free. And anytime they see something in their video or they're a victim, it be a vehicle or an individual, they'll put this out on the Ring social media. Now, every morning I open it up, and anything that happens in the Northwest Area Command, like Commander Sanchez said, I send it to him, Lieutenant, and all the officers. What better information do they have when they have a video of that vehicle, a video of those individuals? Nextdoor is another social site we use to assist us. You know, these are tools that also help us. Like Commander Sanchez said, we don't rely 100% on these, but we rely on the neighborhood. And with these social medias, we get a lot of good information that's happening out there in the neighborhood. Some of the trends, what we're seeing, and I'm looking at my property graph from last year. Overall, last year in 2020, our property crimes went down, and it continues to go down this year, January and February. So that's good. One of the initiatives is with the COVID, everybody was working from home. So the residential burglaries were down. What we did see is auto burglaries in the evenings, late at night. And what these burglars were looking at is the large volumes of vehicles which are located in apartment complexes. So what Commander Sanchez has done, they've done field briefings, not only in the neighborhoods, but in apartment complex, provided TAC plans with our problem response team officers to do TAC plans, to look for these individuals and eventually make an arrest. So we also have the RTC cameras that we'll set up in businesses. One of the trends we saw last year when the businesses were closed late at night, a lot of these burglars were taking copper wire. They realized these businesses were closed or were going to be closed for a while. So Commander Sanchez had the initiatives, officers targeted, they did field briefings, and the copper wiring actually has stopped. So these are some of the things we saw last year during the COVID. Now that the governor has relaxed some of her initiatives, we're starting to hopefully get back to normal. I'm starting to get calls from neighbors. Commander and I met with the block captain, new block captain yesterday, wants to start up a neighborhood watch. So we want to get back involved in that. Even the Zoom is going to work for us. And once the governor gives us the green light, we could do in person. A lot of the Zoom meetings, we're starting to get a lot of the associations that the commander and I are actually attending every month when it comes to association meetings and kind of bringing them up to par, what the trends are, what the patterns are. And also we have citywide, they've updated our area command's website. So if you go to the Northwest Area Command website and you type in www.cabq.gov/police/area command/Northwest Area Command, gives you a lot of good information. And it'll give you also what is happening citywide. And like the commander said, it gives you a lot of the crime statistics, not only property crimes, but other crimes in the city, which also includes the Northwest. In that website, on the crime prevention side, we have all sorts of crime prevention safety brochures. So hopefully everyone will look at that website, take advantage, and see what we have to offer in the Northwest Area Command. we're hoping now with the initiative, I know Councilor Borrego, you started the new business initiative up around Unser and McMahon. So we're hoping to get that going again. We've got 4 business coalitions initiatives, and we want to get back into that so we can work with the businesses and provide crime prevention, safety information. I can provide assessments. Been working with the fire department real close. What we do with the fire department, it's we'll do safety inspections when there's an increase in calls for service, and we'll provide a form and give it to the fire department. So we've been working with the fire department when it comes to septic inspections and other inspectors. So we've been working real close with them. So we're real excited with the warm weather. We're real excited with the initiatives to start relaxing, to get back into normal.
And I just wanted to ask Chief Kim if he wanted to comment about the relationship between the fire department and the police department, or the commander, if you guys wanted to comment on that relationship a little bit.
Yes, ma'am, easily. Over the last probably 2 years, what I've seen, which is different from the other 20 years that I've been involved in the fire department here in Albuquerque, is we've actually, I don't want to say experimented, but we've oscillated between APD taking some of the volume and us taking some of the volume. So it's been really sharing some of the workload between us to figure out what is the proper response to some of these. And I'm ranging from anything from picking up a needle to psychiatric emergencies. So I think probably the biggest thing to share here, counselors, we believe that just because we've done it for 100 years in the past that way, doesn't mean we need to continue. So we're constantly strategizing and trying to really get to the bottom, the grassroots of what are the reasons that some of these calls are happening, and then how do we really facilitate the response and the care to these folks. So we work with APD. I want to make that very clear. It's not, I would say in my younger days, it was a little more adversarial, and it is not that today.
And I just wanted to comment for the sake of the public. I know that the mayor has started a new department, and I know he didn't get the funding, all of the funding that he wanted, but that department is starting to be up and running. How would that department interface with AFR and APD? I mean, I think that they're more dealing with mental health issues and homelessness and things like that. Is that correct, of how kind of that interface would happen?
I think, and I don't know as all the details about the department necessarily, and really what it, how exactly how it's going to function. But I will say that I think it's going to be more than that. It's going to be about, we're still going to be working together and creating those partnerships as far as APD, AFR, and the new department. I think what it's going to do is something that actually, and I'll go back to what you're talking about with the relationship with the AFR. I've never seen the relationship with the AFR and that's been better than it is now. One of the things that they have done, which I think is something that's going to help us with this department, is that obviously we as a police department have had to reevaluate how we respond to certain calls. And if we should be responding to certain calls, because the reality is that certain times when we respond, it doesn't, instead of solving the issue, just the mere fact that we're there increases some of that tension between whether it's some of the community or anything. It's just because they understandably so, they're saying, well, this isn't, why is APD here? I'm not doing anything. And so some of those things that we have been doing with AFR, where they would respond in certain situations that, that we wouldn't, have made it easier, not only for the city, for us, but especially for that community that's wanting those services without having a police officer there. And I think that's where some of this with this department, where it's going to go, is in that area where the need to have a police officer there we don't needed anymore. It's
So
something
it
that,
would be more non-emergency calls, situations where maybe somebody needs to be connected to a service. And maybe that's something that we can schedule, Susan, in one of our future quarterly meetings is having that new, someone from that new department come on and talk a little bit about, that meeting that gap that where a non-emergency call can be addressed. Is that what you're saying, Commander?
yes, but I don't want to, I want to make sure that it's important for everybody that's on here to understand is that the partnerships, just because we're not going to be responding to certain calls or not going to certain calls, I think, the partnerships are still going to be there between APD, the new department and AFR, because there's still going to be those times where we're going to want to engage together in certain aspects, in certain events.
Chief, you look like you're wanting to say something also. Chief, you're on mute. Chief,
There
there
we
you
go.
go.
Sorry about that. Sorry to interrupt, Commander. That was not my intent at all. Yeah, as he was explaining these cases, I was trying to think what the public is maybe viewing, and what I wanted to really emphasize was that no call for services is exactly the same as the next. And so I think that we've all, as we've come up through the ranks, we've believed that, well, the fire department should run on that sort of call, or the police department should go on that. And oftentimes when we get there, sometimes they're completely out of my hands and I'm incapable of handling that emergency. And so I do need the police department to help. And I know that they've been in those situations plenty of times where they may need chemical restraint from us to make it a better, safe solution for that individual. So I like to personally, I like the best model as both entities responding. And I know that takes a lot more, for lack of better words, manpower, but I like the two entities to respond together so that whatever tactic is best for that person, we use. I don't like when we kind of shed calls to one agency or the other. I think sometimes that can put us in a jam, and that's uncomfortable for both agencies and maybe not the best for the public. So my personal model is sharing that response. But people above me sometimes make those decisions. And of course, we make decisions based upon the whole. If I hear something unusual on the radio, then I encourage my guys to go. That's basically the bottom line.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that it's not easy to be in those situations and have to make those decisions in a split second, and especially when you're dealing with people's lives. I mean, that's definitely something that has to be handled with kit gloves and, very sensitively. So we appreciate what you all do. And, I'm glad that the public gets to see a face this evening with the commander and the chief, and they can see who is actually behind the scenes responding to these emergency calls. And Pete, we thank you for what you do, because we know that you're out there with the neighborhoods and trying to, put the best foot forward for the work that you all do. And I know that it's not work that I could do, but I appreciate what you do. And I know there are people in the public that also do as well. So with that, I guess we will move on our agenda, because we only have so much time this evening. I believe that we're supposed to adjourn at 7:30, right, Susan?
Yes, I was just going to add a short personal story. When my cousin's son died at home with hospice, 2 officers came to the house, and at first we were really startled because we were dealing with so many emotions at that moment. But they were the kindest people, and they really showed their softer and gentler side. They explained that they were there, concerned that she might harm herself at the loss of her son. And she very reasonably explained that I was there with her and that she would be okay and she wasn't staying home. But I can certainly see the need for some discretion on having mental health or or the different issues addressed. So thank you all for what you do.
Thank you, Susan, for sharing that story. Many people, especially during COVID, have similar stories. And, you know, unfortunately, some people that are not with us and you know, some people that have survived. And as I said before, we appreciate everything that the police and fire do for our community. So, and I know that, and you guys know that I'm more than 100% behind you. So, and I think the council is, and the mayor as well. So with that, you know, thank you for being with us this evening. And we are going to move on to our next individual, who is very important as well. And he is one of the persons that's been behind the scenes, really kind of managing some of the responses from the city regarding COVID. He's quietly doing his work back there on 118th Street at our CABQ Emergency Management Center. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Roger Ebner. Roger.
Thank you, Councilor Borrego, and hello to everyone this evening. Yeah, the purpose of the Emergency Management Office is, as you mentioned, is to prepare the city for any large-scale events that may occur, whether they be natural disasters, technological, or public health emergencies. So we engage in writing plans for the city. We develop training exercises and then other exercises to practice our skills. And over the last year, since March 10th of last year, as you mentioned, we've been engaged in trying to coordinate as best we can our response to the COVID-19 virus. So the Operations Center has been activated for more than a year now. And our most important activity right now is to get vaccines out to the public. So we held our first vaccine clinic, what we call a pod, a point of dispensing, on December 20th. So we're a few months into it now, and a few numbers I can give. In the county, we have 175 people have already received at least one dose, and 110,000 have received their second doses. And so we are well on our way to protecting as many people as we possibly can. And we convene and hold these pods anywhere from 3 to 7 days a week. This week we do have 7 of them that are laid out across the city at different places. And we work with many of our local partners, whether it's the hospitals or other healthcare practitioners, pharmacies, and so on. And so we're very happy that we've got these numbers so far in the county, and we're going to continue. And I really hope within the next 60 days, we have passed that point where the vast majority of people have the vaccine and we are as protected as we can be. One of the things I wanted to mention here this evening is that we seem to get a number of questions almost on a daily basis. And if I could address just a couple of them this evening for our listeners and viewers. Sometimes there's a resistance to going out and actually getting the vaccine, because some people think that if they take the vaccine, they will get sick with the virus. And I just want to state that is not true. There's no live virus in these vaccines, so it doesn't make one sick at all. And so I think people can take some comfort in that. Then also, if they say, well, if I've had the virus and I recovered, do I still need to take the vaccine? And the answer is yes. We don't know how long one might be protected if you've had the virus and so on. But there are other variants out there and so on that you still might get it. So it's still important, if you've had the virus and you've recovered, to actually go out and get that vaccine. Some people have asked the question, well, does it impact my DNA in some way? Is it going to cause any future problems? And the vaccine has been widely tested. We now have hundreds of millions of doses out there into people's arms. and there are very few problems, and it does not affect the human DNA at all. So those are some questions, again, that we get on a regular basis. Just wanted to address those. Another thing that a question we're getting from folks, if they don't have internet access, and we want everybody to register on the state website, where you will be sent a text or an email that where and when you can get your vaccine. But if some of our viewers and so on don't have internet access, I just want to give this number for everyone that they can call. Maybe they have a parent or grandparent that they can share this with. So 855-600-3453. 855-600-3453. They call that number, someone will be there to help them get registered so they can get that vaccine.
Roger, can you just, thank you for sharing that about the vaccine. So there's 3 different vaccines out there, or 3 companies, I guess, right, that have provided vaccines. And can you just share a little bit about those 3 companies that are, and I know one of them only requires 1 shot, and a couple of others require more than 1 shot.
Sure. There's actually over 100 tests going on right now for various vaccines around the world, but we have 2 of them that have been approved that are the 2-dose version. There's a Pfizer and a Moderna. They are of a similar background, if I can put it that way. And one of them, after you take your first dose, you will wait 3 weeks, or the other one 4 weeks, and then you get your second dose. And they're extremely effective, extremely effective. The other one is the Johnson & Johnson, and that one is a single dose. And that one is just most recently been approved. It has entered the state, I think about 2 weeks ago. It's just getting out around the state and into the metro area right now. That's a popular for people who don't like needles, or if for other people who really can't get out, if you're homebound and can't get out to get your 2 doses. So that'll be extremely popular, I think, once it gets more doses into the state. But all of them have gone through long-term testing. Each one had at least 30,000 participants in their trials. And again, with millions, tens of millions and more doses out there around the world, has been proven to be extremely safe, all 3 of them.
And also, Roger, since you're sort of the person that's most knowledgeable, I know the governor has declared a different sort of categorical not timeline, but a color scheme for communities across the state. And it's been in the news. Can you talk a little bit about where Bernalillo County is in that whole scheme, and where we're kind of headed?
Sure. Depending upon the number of positive cases and so forth, the various counties get put into a color-coded system from red through green, and actually another color in there. And we were in red for a while, and we've moved into the next category, which is yellow, which means that there's more liberal approach to the number of people that gather, the amount of people that can be in various facilities like restaurants, or whether they can open indoors or outdoors and so on. So we are doing quite well here in the county. We think, hope, and believe that we probably will be moving into the green category within the next few weeks. We see that coming, and so that just means more opening. So that is part of that light at the end of the tunnel. As we get to go more places, or to have more people sitting in restaurants, etc. I think it's just it's an uplifting time for people. We see that as we talk with folks around the county and around the state, that people have a very positive attitude towards the that they see the end of this COVID and we can get back to some sense of normal life.
Thank you. So I guess the best category to be in for a county would be that turquoise color that they're referring to. Is that right? So we're currently in a yellow
In the yellow.
area, and then we would move into a green, and then I guess eventually it would go into turquoise. And at that point in time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that at that point in time, businesses would be able to be 100% open when they are in the turquoise color. Is that my understanding correct?
I would have to look at the turquoise. I've been focused on our yellow and then moving on to the green actually myself, but
Yeah.
looking forward towards that turquoise color. And I can't say for sure that it's 100% capacity.
But it's a higher percentage anyway,
But it is the
more,
highest.
yeah, maybe 50%. Okay. Well, I appreciate that, Roger. I've had questions about, why doesn't the city do certain things like open, businesses fully and so on. And these are mandates from the state. So we cannot override the governor's mandate. She has that authority. And I just want to mention that because I did have an email today that asked me, why doesn't the city just open businesses 100%? And we don't have that authority, even jurisdictionally. I mean, it's a state mandate. Is that
That's
right?
true. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Roger. Do you have anything else you'd care to share this evening with us? And just tell us maybe a little bit about your operation out there and where you're at. How do we reach you?
Sure. There's a couple things to mention for everyone. As I mentioned earlier, we just want everybody to get the vaccine if they wish to, wherever they can, whenever they can. There's a lot of different places across the city that are open on a regular basis. So when you get that notice from the state, please confirm it as quickly as you can, or you'll lose your spot for that time period. Now, our office is located far west side off of 114th Street. We're located upstairs is both APD dispatch and AFR dispatch. We're on the first floor. So we have not only the OEM offices there, but the operations center is located there, where we are able to coordinate the activities of the city and some of our partners in a central place where we're all there together. We can seat 64 people in our operations center, where we try to manage various field, not actual on the field responses, but to coordinate with the field response entities out there. And we also do a lot of advanced planning to work our way through that incident. And probably something that people don't think of, but extremely important, are the finances part of responding to an incident, where we have finance folks there that are tracking the costs and making sure that, for example, if there's a FEMA reimbursement and so on, make sure it's allowable, that it's eligible, but that we are tracking all of our expenses. So that's exceptionally important, particularly in this case with the virus. We've been tracking all of our costs for the city over the last year, and we all are seeking reimbursement from the federal government for much of our city costs.
Thank you, Roger. And I will just say, having worked with you in the past, it's really a godsend to have that facility out there and to have Roger. Roger's been there for a while now, and he definitely, so if there is ever something that deals with emergency preparedness, and I know that like when all of the power went out in northern New Mexico, you guys, I remember that one when you guys were engaged with the governor and the state emergency operations. Also, you guys have connections to them. So just so the public understands that there are these networks out there that are working on your behalf. And we appreciate you very much, Roger. Thank you for joining us this evening. It appears that our environmental health folks are not going to be able to join us this evening. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our state legislative information. There were a number of bills that the city council sent up to via memorials that the city council adopted, including crimes against children. We were asking the legislature to increase penalties against crimes against children. As the commander knows, our crimes against children unit has really increased, and even during COVID. And so the city council, and it was one of my bills actually that moved forward to the state. It was M19-6, and the Senate bill was number 0196, and SJR 11, which unfortunately didn't make it through the legislature this year. But what we were asking was that our legislators, and I think they know how important these bills are, to increase penalties for crimes against children. So hopefully next year those bills will be looked at again. There was another bill that the council moved forward, which was also, by the way, my bill. So all three of these bills were Council Bill M20-7, and it was State House Bill number 9, which looked at global warming prevention. And then the final bill that didn't make it through was the tobacco preemption law, which would have, which was asking that we have local preemption for tobacco, and more importantly, you know, for students or young people rather, because now you can buy tobacco. You're supposed to be 18 or 21. I don't remember. Is it 18 or 21, Susan?
I believe it's 21.
21. You have to be 21 to buy tobacco, but kids as young as, 10 years old, 12 years old are finding their way to having tobacco products. And so this would have given local jurisdictions that tobacco preemption law that would have allowed us to create situations where we could keep better track of that. But none of all of those bills were heard, but none of them passed. So those were some of the bills that were discussed at the legislature. There were some bills that moved forward to the governor's office, which are sitting on her desk. And those included some of our projects in District 5, which we're hoping that she does sign. And I'm just going to tell you what those bills are. And I'm reading from my notes because obviously I can't memorize all of this information, but the Paseo del Norte expansion, currently we have $18 million, and Paseo del Norte from Calle Norteña to Rainbow, we would be adding 2 additional lanes on either side. So that would be a total of 4 lanes going east and west. We currently have $18 million. That project is in design. We were asking for another $8 million. Unfortunately, we knew that we weren't going to get $8 million, but we were going to ask for as much as we possibly could receive. What is sitting on the governor's desk is House Bill 285, and that is a request of $2 additional million. We need $26 million to complete that project, and we're hoping that the governor signs this additional $2 million, which would give us a total of $20 million. And then we are looking to work with the state Department of Transportation to see if we could look at some federal grants possibly, or some other types of funding that DOT has access to complete that $26 million. The other bill, and I did notice that I did receive a constituent question regarding the Cibola Loop Multi-Generational Center, which is over across from Cibola High on Ellison. We were asking for a total of $10 million in our capital outlay request this go around. And we know that we can't receive that type of funding because many of our legislators have to put their funding together, but we still need that additional $10 million. The State House Bill 285 proposal, the amount that we're hoping to receive and is sitting on the governor's desk also to be signed would be about $500,000, 500,000. So we're hoping that she does sign that. And we do have the total cost of that project. The total cost is the library total cost is $19 million, almost $20 million. The pool cost is $20 million. I'm looking for the multi-gen cost. Susan, can you help me out on that one?
Yeah, it's actually much more modest. It's would be 14 million for the first, for just the bottom floor, and then 11 for the second floor. But we want to get that 14 for the first floor.
Yeah. So we're hoping that the governor signs that bill as well, which would give us another, at least another $500,000. That project, for the constituent who sent that question in, is the project is in design. There's still a 5-acre tract of land that we need about $2 million to purchase. And we're working with the administration to try to find that funding. If the governor does sign that, we're closer to being able to purchase that additional 5 acres. And that would be the last 5 acres that we need. That piece of property is really important because that is our drainage piece to this entire complex. And, you know, just as a reminder, it's a multi-generational complex. It's a library. It's a pool. And then we have an additional piece that's an RFP for housing. And that RFP has been released twice, but we haven't been able to get a developer or to obtain a developer that can meet the requirements of that particular RFP. So that RFP has been rewritten and will be re-released again. And that entire 25 acres is sitting right behind the police station. So when you drive by there, you'll know which piece of property that is. And one of the questions that one of the constituents asked was with regard to traffic. I will say that, you know, there have to be, traffic count studies that will be done in order to keep and to maintain the circulation patterns in that area and to recommend improvements for traffic circulation patterns. And so before any of these projects can be built, and that is actually considered as part of the design. There were a lot of other smaller requests that we had at the legislature that we've been working with our neighborhoods. Petroglyph Estates playground equipment. We asked for $162,000 for new playground equipment at that particular park. However, that bill did not go through. And then we asked for Sierra Vista tennis facility. There was a request for $268,000, a little over $268,000 that was requested for lighting, asphalt, concrete improvements, and working with that area. However, what we're looking at possibly receiving for that is about $50,000 if the governor signs that one. With regard to Coors and Alameda at golf course, we were looking at for some bus stops at, it doesn't appear, Susan, from what I'm reading on this note, is that we were receiving that funding for that particular bus stop. But we are looking at a bus stop possibly at golf course and Ellison and McMahon, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and our request for that bus stop was $18,000, and we're hoping that that is signed. We're also looking at possibly receiving some funding for the George Maloof Air Park, which is up on the Mesa, right on at, I guess, let's see, I lost my place here. I'm sorry. That is up on the Mesa, and what we were asking for there was $40,000 to improve that air park, and that is being considered at about $37,000. And then also Ventana Ranch Park, we're looking at about $50,000 possibly being received for that improvements at that particular park for an office complex. Whether or not we receive that is really up to the governor at this point in time. I want to thank our state legislators because they have worked tirelessly. Our senators, Senator Pope, Senator Duhigg, and our representatives, Karen Bash, Joy, oh my gosh, why is Joy's last name escaping me? Joy, help me out here.
Garrett.
Pardon me?
Garrett. Joy? Representative Garrett?
Joy Garrett, yes, thank you.
I do that.
Yeah, and then Damon Eli, our state representatives who have worked tirelessly up there to fighting for our funding. And the governor has, I believe it's, okay, so the state legislature ended on Sunday. So I think the governor has 60 days to sign the bill. So that would put us, we won't actually know until next month sometime whether or not she signs those bills. But if you have a moment, please reach out to the governor's office on these bills because they're really important to District 5 and they will help us as we move forward into the future. McMahon, I'm just going to mention some other things since I have the attention of the public. The council just approved the GO bond package, which will be on the November election ballot. And it's important because there's additional funding there for McMahon, the improvements that we're trying to make at McMahon, for improvements that we're also trying to make at Paseo, and then some other improvements at Cibola, at the Cibola Multi-Generational Center. So there's funding included for all of these projects that are our big ticket items, really. And it's difficult when you have to put funding together because these are $1 million projects. And, it's important for us because we might get some funding here and some other funding there from the state, from the city, GO bonds, or in some cases like Unser Boulevard, where we are looking entirely at federal funding to expand Unser Boulevard. These are really, really important projects for circulation patterns, for providing activities for our youth, for our seniors, It's really important. So as you can see, we're working hard to ensure that we do receive these funds. With that, I'm going to turn over to some questions that we received from some of our constituents this evening. I had a question, and just so the public understands, we did put out a call for emails regarding things that people wanted to know about that we're working on in the district. And I had a question regarding speed bumps at Conestoga Drive and Homestead Circle by LBJ Middle School. We are doing a speed study, which is approximately $16,560 at Conestoga, Kettle, and Sooner. And just so as a response for that particular question, there's a question regarding, let's see, a left-hand turn arrow at the intersection behind the Home Depot at Old Airport Road. And that question, we are still working with our engineers, and I will tell you that they are considering that particular intersection and the danger. I know that they went in and they did add some markings in the intersection to improve that, but the left-hand turn arrow, they have to do additional studying regarding that. So I hope that answers your question. Is these things are on our radar, and we do try to track them as best that we can. If something falls through the crack, we hope that you remind us, because there's a lot of questions and a lot of circulation and speed and intersection improvements that we're working on. We're working on some of the funding that is going for some flashing lights at Unser, and is it Unser? Yeah, it's Unser and Paradise, that we're working with the community in that area right now. We're waiting to, we recommended to them some flashing lights. Our traffic engineers did, and they're looking at whether or not the community will accept that. So you may see some changes in that particular area, and that funding, by the way, is coming out of my set aside. There's a question here on behalf of, they're asking about the vehicles traveled from Rio Rancho to Albuquerque. Does Rio Rancho contribute funds for maintenance and upkeep of Albuquerque roads? And the answer is no. It's a jurisdictional question. Even though they do use our roads, we do use their roads. So, these are jurisdictional funds that only go for roads in Albuquerque, but no, they do not contribute funding. There's a question about emissions testing. It says those vehicles are not required by Rio Rancho to have emissions testing. And really, you would need to contact the city of Rio Rancho regarding the emissions testing for their jurisdiction. Albuquerque does do the emissions testing, as we all know. And we have, the question is, they are contributing to air pollution in our city. We do track our emissions, and we do have to meet federal requirements for emissions. And so far we've been in the green for that, which is good. That tells me that our population is adhering to those tests, and that's a good thing. As residents of the West Side, Paradise Hills North area, we witnessed the influx of thousands of vehicles from Rio Rancho. I do have a really good relationship with Mayor Hall, so I will pass on that particular email to Mayor Hall and just let them know that these are important questions that our population has. we have a comment regarding the pool property, and they're very thankful for supporting the purchase of that land. If for people that don't know, Councilor Senna was working with the state legislature to purchase the land from in her district, and I was very supportive of that. And I know the mayor was. There were senators who purchased property, who contributed funding to purchase that property, and that is a done deal. So that property will go into city open space, and it will be managed by the city open space. And there was a question that someone had regarding why didn't we put some of that funding to expand Paseo del Norte? It's important to understand that there are different types of funding. There's transportation funding, there's funding for parks and open space, and we cannot commingle. There was another question about why we didn't put that funding into fighting crime. That particular funding came out of open space. So it's slated to be used for parks or open space. And it's not, obviously there is funding that's only slated for public safety. So if that helps answer that question. And then there's a comment here with regard to McMahon. They're happy to see that we're working on completing McMahon at Cayenta. And I am too, because there's a dangerous situation up there, and we're very well aware of that. And that community, but we do need the funding for that. And there is funding from the GEO bond that is slated just for McMahon. So that's really important to understand. I'm trying to see if I missed anything. Susan, did I miss any question here? I know we got some late emails. There's a gentleman or a lady, I'm sorry, that is saying that she was trying to get on the Zoom chat and wasn't able to get on the Zoom chat. So if you would send in your questions to either myself or Susan at Cynthia Borrego at cabq.gov, or to Susan V. Hill at cabq.gov, then we can actually respond to any questions that we missed. If there were, we also put out just recently, and I have to give credit where credit is due. Susan worked with me to write our newsletter. We have a newsletter that has quite a bit of information regarding different issues that are occurring in District 5, and we are happy to forward that to you if you haven't received that newsletter. There was also a question regarding the 7 Bar neighborhood, and I do want to address a little bit of that. In the studies that were done for West Side Boulevard, there were some noise impact studies that were done by the engineers, and they indicated to us that and I've asked these questions with our traffic engineers, because I've had people ask me, why are we not putting in the noise barriers? What I've been told by our traffic engineers is that the materials that they're using will absorb some of that noise as we move forward with that project. And as you know, we broke ground on that project. It's a $10 million project, $5 million from the city, $5 million from the federal government. And they're indicating to me that they're looking to, after the project is complete, do an additional noise study. And I tried to get a bill through our last week when we had our council meeting. I tried to get an amendment to at least encumber $500,000 in case that funding was needed. The council didn't agree with me in terms of the funding source that it was coming from. So that amendment didn't go through. But I did I did add $300,000 from my set aside in case that we do need to do some mitigation in the future. And that money is reserved for noise mitigation for West Side Boulevard. And I am hoping that I don't know that, you know, the materials that they're using for the improvements will mitigate all of the noise, but they're telling me that it should be a better situation once the construction is completed. If that is not the case, then I have allocated that funding for a phase 2, which would ensure that there is some sort of mitigation. And that's really just seed money. So I'm going to be looking for additional funding for that particular project that hopefully will not be needed, but in case that it is, it will be encumbered. So I wanted to address that issue because I have had people that have asked me about that and have asked, you know, our engineers, and that's what my engineers have told me, and I have to rely on them. So at this point in time, we're hoping that as the project proceeds, that mitigation, that future mitigation will not be needed. But if it is, there is some funding that I have committed to that particular project. And with that, I think I've addressed all of the comments have been received by my office. And Susan, can you think of, is there anything that I missed that you can see? No, I tried to address everything that I could remember. If not, I want to thank all of our panelists for this evening. The Commander Arturo Sanchez, our Chief, Chad Kim, Pete Gelibert from our Crime Prevention Specialist, and Roger Ebner with, thank you for being with us this evening. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to the staff to help me put this on. And if you have further questions, please send them to my office and we will be happy to try to answer those for you. And if you have other comments or concerns, I'm happy to set up a time to meet with you. Thank you all and have a very nice evening.